Hey guys, and we're back with Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. Yes, I look at it because I want to make sure I say it correctly. And let me tell you, this next section of the book is really in reference to his teenage years and some of the lessons that he's gotten that I feel like I want to share with you guys that I got from his lessons. They may not be the lessons that he got, but these are the lessons I got from his experiences. And I think that if I had had these different experiences or these lessons at that young of an age, that I might not have been willing or so easily receptive to them, because they are so profound that, like, even at my ripe old age of 40s, the whole concept behind all this stuff, like, it's really hard to grasp, but I'm going to share them anyways. Okay, so this one is really big. I have long exercised an honest introspection, the exquisitely painful approach to wisdom. Self-scrutiny, relentless observance of one's thoughts is a stark and shattering experience. It pulverizes the stoutest egos, but true self-analysis mathematically operates to produce seers. The way of self-expression, individual acknowledgments, results in egotists, sure of the right to their private interpretations of God and the universe. And so two things jump out at me with this. And the first is that the idea of introspection, basically pulverizing the ego, actually examining the things that we have about us, the bad, the ugly, and the good. And the end of that paragraph, it's like, yes, even when you do this, you can become this egotist, like somebody who is trying to analyze and interpret God through your own will and your self-reflection, and trying to see God within you and taking that and even trying to embody God. But the fact is that the self-introspection is supposed to remind you that you are just a vessel. So there is no I, there is no I am. The only I am that exists is God. And the fact that he's learning this, like, at such a young age is wild to me. Like, I never would have ever been able to, like, even the next sentence, truth humbly retires, no doubt, before such arrogant originality. I was enjoying the discussion. Like, if somebody were talking to me like this, I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? At his age, like, he's in high school, like, in the time frame that we're reading this. So we're talking about how, the self-scrutiny and the relentless observance of one's thoughts. That, again, is something that I think everybody should be doing. I think everybody really needs to take a look at who they are and see what they can come up with. See what actually pops up. It goes on to talk about being afraid to do that is kind of like a selfish journey. Not really looking at yourself is selfish. It's just living through the ego and living through one's emotions. And, like, I had never thought of it as selfish to not want to reflect on yourself, but then I think about the people who refuse to look at how they live or refuse to acknowledge the way that they interpret things, and maybe it's faulty, maybe it's like they're always right, this is the only way to view life. And I can see how they could be labeled as selfish. I can see that, but not for me, because obviously I'm perfect. My point is that even with this entire discussion of being able to look at yourself, okay, you have to be willing to look at yourself. That's the first part. But part half is, like, even before that, is like you have to even be able to acknowledge that there is something to look at. So while self-examination, lack of self-examination, yes, it is selfish, if you are aware that there's something to examine. So if you've looked at previous videos of mine, especially in the previous book that we were doing, you have to even be conscious of the fact that you're conscious to be able to look at this, right? So calling it selfish to me is like, yes, you're right, but that's on the presumption that everybody is conscious. And I don't think everybody is conscious. I absolutely do not believe everybody is conscious. I think there are certain cases where people aren't conscious, or people might be conscious but are denying it because they feel like, oh, that's just crazy thought. Like nobody thinks like that, so they deny that is even possible. And the other thing is that they're so traumatized by their past that even though they might be conscious, they're unwilling to accept it for the fear. So it's not even about the selfishness that comes with it. It's like you have to be conscious and just not want to do it because you just don't want to do it. I think that's where the selfish part comes in. Not necessarily if you're conscious and scared to do it, or conscious and think you're crazy, or maybe even unconscious. I think that especially when he's talking about here about how it's going to kill the ego fights really hard to stay put. Just try to tell somebody like that they're wrong, and you see how fiercely their ego fights to not have that world shift change, that perception change. It fights to hold on to ideas, it fights to stay, it fights to stick. And so when you're trying to present new ideas, yeah, you're killing the ego, but that's really hard. The ego fights back. The ego fights back in so many ways. So that was the first part of that I really liked. And I'm going to do another one because I feel like this was such a good chapter. Okay, so the second part of that is, a frog is also at home in the water, Abu said, pointed out in gentle scorn. The crow and the vulture easily fly in the air. The devil is simultaneously present in the east and in the west. A true man is he who dwells in righteousness among his fellow men, who may buy and sell, yet is never for a single instant forgetful of God. And I think this goes back to, when you are doing this self-work, it's easy to come from a place of being self-righteous. Not righteous, but self-righteous. It's easy to come from a place of, I am better than you, so you need to listen to me. I'm smarter than you, you need to listen to me. I'm whatever more than you, and you need to listen to me. And that in and of itself, so like that self journey, it can be a double-edged sword, because yeah, it kills the ego, but like I said, the ego fights back in these insidious ways. And that can come in the form of, oh, I'm so enlightened, like everything is fucking like, and the fact that you don't do it, there's something wrong with you. And that type of judgment also can come from doing this inner work. And so again, I reiterate the fact that like he's getting these lessons when he is in high school. Like when you are in high school, and maybe you are in high school and you are listening to this and you're totally getting these stories and you're understanding the concepts, and you've read this book and you've read other countless books and you're totally enlightened. Wonderful. But from what I have seen, the people that I know, the people I have surrounded myself with in high school were unable to grasp these concepts. And it might just be a factor of not having been surrounded by people who were enlightened themselves or on a journey of self-discovery themselves, so that, yeah, it's really difficult to break through all of that. So just some food for thought, that this guy is getting some amazing lessons while he is in his teenage years, and he is like totally all about it. So I can see how this guy has been like living such a deeply rooted God centered life, and that is so beautiful to me. So you guys, Autobiography of a Yogi, Paramahansa Yogananda. get the book, okay? I'm going to put a link in the description. I'm also putting a link to my book. It has techniques on how to journal. Journaling, prayer, meditation have been crucial to my own self-discovery and my self-journey, and also my podcast, so you guys can hear me talking about nothing every fucking day, okay? Love you guys. Bye.